we've got ourselves an Avoid Star. In preparation, I loaded up my 10 stacks so that my supercharged cell will be ready to go. Pop a stealth scan just in case, because a couple of times I stood right in that position and my health bar vanished as an assassin jumped all over me. That was embarrassing, so hoping to avoid that. So anyway, one of the things that I started doing is, as a just in case, I don't use my supercharged cell right away. I tend to use it in the second part of my rotation, just because sometimes I get stunned. So in this case, I would have been fine. So basically, I'll do the opening up with like Vortex Bolt, Bolt Storm, and then after I hit my grab round that resets it with the proc curtain of fire, where you see that spiral, the line spiraling around me. That's when I usually hit supercharged cell and go for it there. Targeting on this sorcerer first off, and commandos are in a gunnery commando specifically is almost like a hard counter to them, and the reason for that is we have our diversion, and when we pop diversion for 10 seconds we'll be immune to 10 force or tech attacks, and since sorcerers only really have force attacks available to them, we're in a pretty good spot to fight them one-on-one. In addition to that, we have the Electronet, which counters their escapes. So whereas operatives tend to be like a hard counter for us, we're kind of a hard counter for sorcerers. Now that sword did a good move there because I was getting healed by that scoundrel there, and I didn't notice it at the time. So he ran past me and threw a stun on him, which was tactically smart move. It was a good play. Unfortunately, it put him kind of in our territory because a bunch of our guys just ran in, and while there are 2 or 3 healers on his team, they're kind of far away from him. So there I put the Electronet on him as his health got low, and even though he's got that healer supporting him, there's a couple of us shooting on him, and with the Electronet he doesn't really have anywhere to go. One quick note here is I noticed that Operative was healing, so as I decided to right click and go through the options to mark the target, I just kept hitting my grab round button, basically. Excuse me. Because it's important to mark enemy healers. And I wanted to still be useful while I was doing that, so I just kind of stayed on the grab round for a little bit. And as a side note, if you were playing a game in like 1.5, getting hit with a grab round used to drive people crazy. Because back in the day, grab rounds did a lot more damage, and if there was a second person using that same class, the gravity vortex debuff would stack. So people went ballistic about grab rounds back in the day. It was kind of funny. Like, you could get away with running a Gunnery Commando or a Merc. I think it's an Arsenal Merc. And all you really needed was your tracer missile, and that's like the only ability you needed to use, because for whatever reason people wouldn't interrupt you for a brief window. So, as a joke, someone loaded up. I think it was 4 of the bars that you fit your skills in. They loaded every single one of them with tracer missile, and they would just go into war zones and just do nothing but that. That's the only ability they used, and they would sometimes top the damage charts. It was kind of fun. And then commandos got nerfed into the ground, and we stayed there for quite a while. So anyway, I'm gonna run this orb real quick. That was a bit of a tangent, a bit of a story for some of the newer players. So we're going to run this orb and then we're going to get back into it. In fact, we're just going to cut a little bit of this out. Okay, so we're back in it, and it probably wasn't the most efficient thing to start with the plasma grenade. They're better off for when you see a group of people, especially when you chain it with your mortar volley. I just like using the grenades. I probably would have better damage if I didn't sprinkle them in as much, or if I switched to using the sticky grenade as like a rangefinder. Like, you just tap the key as you're approaching, and that way once you're in range and you throw it, you can switch to your other abilities. It's kind of like with boxers, how sometimes I'll throw a light jab just to check the range between them and their opponent. It's one of those little things that can help increase how efficient you are with a ranged DPS. Like a typical rangefinder for, say, a knight or a guardian is their leap, or even for a vanguard. Once they're in range, they tend to jump at you, which is why when you see one running towards you, it doesn't hurt to hold the line, because then, unless they're really fast with getting a stun on you, you can start to put some distance between the two of you after they hit their leap. So now I'm going to start in on this Marauder, and he popped his Guarded by the Force, so I tried to kill a bit of time there. I popped my diversion because I wasn't sure what stance he was in. and whether or not I was going to have a big force attack coming at me. So I threw that as a just in case. And then I tried kiting around a bit, and he went one way, and I decided to peel for the healer a little bit. It's really important to peel for your healers, because if they're keeping you from dying, it's a good idea to keep them from dying as well, and they really appreciate it. And since it's a team effort here, you know, with the AV8s especially, when you've got objectives to worry about, you want to support your team. So now I'm dancing back and forth. I spotted another healer, so again, we got to get that one marked. So I think they only had 2 healers in this match, although maybe we'll see in a little bit if there was another one. And as a couple of the healers kind of backed away towards the entrance, or the one of them's coming back up now, he gave us an opening to try to finish off this assassin. And with 2 of us focusing on him, we managed to pull it off. So now, I'm going to switch and pressure one of those operative healers. And these 2 operative healers actually did a really good job keeping each other up. There was a couple of times, if this is the match I'm thinking of, my memory isn't the greatest, there was a couple of times where I thought I might be able to get one, but then the other one swooped in and backed him up. But we've got this sorcerer who's a bit on his own, and we got one of our healers kind of going in after him. And he swapped away to throw some med packs on me, which was very generous. And as we weren't getting much headway, I started to swap targets. Because sometimes, if you're trying to attack a target and the healer notices it and they're putting a lot of their efforts into keeping them up, sometimes you can throw them off by switching targets, DPSing somebody else, and then switching back. And we're making some progress. We're about to take the sorcerer down, get some damage coming in. Get the bolt storm going in on him. Can we get him? The healer's doing a really good job keeping him up, because he's around like 20-30% or so, and his force speed is up and he is gone. So the healers did a really good job to keep him covered. We came close to getting him, but we couldn't quite do it. Most of the times when we do wind up getting them, when the healer is focusing them, it's because we had focus fire. There was at least 2 of us attacking him. So I'm going to put some pressure on this assassin, get some nice hits on him there. And because this group lined up, I quickly hit the tag for, or I quickly hit the key for, I'm drawing a blank on the Curtain of Fire, I think it is. No, not Curtain of Fire. It's basically, you know, it says white damage, and it says a light AoE that doesn't have a cooldown. It's handy for defending an objective, like you're trying to cover during Void Star. I usually don't use it that much, but I think with all the reflective abilities, I don't think it gets bounced back at you, so I've been using it a little bit more often. So if you see reflect going up in your face and your mortar volley is on cooldown, you can try that. And it can hope to help you at least get some damage in, even though it's not a hugely powerful attack. So, trying to pressure this healer over here to get him to heal himself, because most of the other targets are well covered. And this is just mixing it up, basically. There's a number, like they say, there's a million different ways to skin a cat, which is actually a horrible saying. Well, you know, there's different ways to make an omelet. And sometimes your focus fire, the simple brute force attack will work. Other times, with a friend of mine was giving some advice about operative healing as far as how to counter them, and they mentioned try to get them to decide whether or not they're going to heal themselves or heal somebody else. Although this was outdated advice at this point, because that was for, I think it was 3.5 or maybe 4.0. But either way, nice focus fire there for that assassin. But either way, because of the way their healing mechanics work, it's still somewhat of a viable strategy. It's obviously depending on the skill level of the players involved. But if you can get them in a situation where they're trying to keep themselves healed, it's hard for them to hard swap to somebody else to heal them up. Commando healing is pretty good for that though, because they've got some good burst healing, and everybody tells me Sage healing is king. I sadly cannot play it. I tried a couple of times and it just goes embarrassingly horrible every time. So going back on this Sork again, and we're getting some headway in getting his health down, although he's getting healed back up again. So start opening, went for the AoE, but there's a bunch of them entrenched in there, though we have a shadow that's kind of making some noise. So I hit him with a knockback just to try to help push them back, and then I hit a concussive round. And I was hoping that would give us some time to pump some damage out on this guy. But I think he wound up hitting a stun breaker, or somebody else might have hit him, because he gets back into the action fairly quickly. As you can see now, both of them are back up here again. Fortunately, though, we're ahead with objectives. Between orbs and kills, we've been able to stay ahead of them. We've actually got a decent lead. So, just, if nothing else, just keeping them tied up, even if we don't get any more kills, or we don't get a lot of them, we're doing alright. And our shadow there had a keen eye and stopped that orb from getting capped. So now I'm focusing with him, trying to get some damage in. And it looks like he's got his Guarded by the Force up. I'm not sure the Imperial name for that skill. And it looked like that guy was trying to cap an orb, so I swung over to him as well. And so now, what I started to do at this point in the match, if I'm remembering it correctly, is I was trying to do a combination of like focus firing off of teammates, pressuring the healers, and keeping them off of the orbs. Because keeping them from capping orbs will keep us with that solid lead. Like, we've got a really good point lead at this point. So hanging on to that is key. And I don't think anybody really got tied up in playing any games with capping the pylons, or at least they didn't put a ton of effort into it. And unfortunately, one of the mistakes I did make in this Warzone was a couple of times there were some call-outs that they needed some help in the pylons, and I just didn't notice, unfortunately. So, sadly, I stuck to my game plan of trying to cause trouble here in mid. And the rest of the team did a good enough of a job keeping that covered. I tried to do that knockback again and push one of them outside of mid, but messed up, and then it looks like he just rolled right back in behind me. So, again, swapping targets to protect the objective there, keeping him off the orb. And before that, I was swapping in between the healers, trying to keep them healing themselves. So I've got this assassin on me, but fortunately, most of my defensive cooldowns have been ready and available for almost the entire match. The healers that we have been doing a fantastic job. And something that might help you if you're fighting an assassin, I forget what they call Infiltration Empire side, but basically one of the abilities that they use a lot is low slash. It's like got 30-meter range possibly, and it's like a 2-second stun. So what happens a lot of times is you hit your knockback to push them away, and they'll immediately go for low slash to basically keep you locked down, and that way they can close the gap again. What I like to do is, after I hit my knockback, I use Mortar Volley almost immediately. And Mortar Volley, if the internal cooldown isn't up, it'll root them. It's basically, we have leg shot now, which is pretty handy. So what you might want to try to get used to doing is, if there's a melee class on you, hit your knockback, and then hit Mortar Volley immediately. And that should root them in place for a couple of seconds. And if it's an assassin, it's especially handy because when they go for that low slash and they stun you for those couple of seconds, they can't move either. And it helps keep the advantage on your side because you want to keep them at range so you can pump out your damage without getting killed. Because some of the biggest damage numbers I've seen in war zones have been from assassins and shadows. They got some nice tools. They got some nice tools in the update, and they can really hurt you. A friend of mine in Guild, Summer, he does a lot of damage on his shadow. He just tears through people. He's a killing machine. And I've come across a couple of other shadows that have done a lot of damage. I'm actually really grateful for the defensive cooldowns we've gotten. So, it was a good team effort. We had a lot of really good healing. I hope you guys enjoyed the match. By all means, rate, comment, subscribe, and any feedback, go ahead and offer it. Hope you guys enjoyed the match, and there'll be more commentary videos on the way. See you guys next time.